Welcome back. I'm Jim Lynch here with another coding tutorial. This time I'm working in Java and we're going to be doing the Fizzbuzz coding kata, and we're going to take a test-driven development style approach to writing code. So I'm here in Eclipse. If you don't have Eclipse, check out one of my other videos for downloading it. Once you have it downloaded, you're going to want to open it up, fresh workspace, and we're going to create a new project. So you can either right click in the Project Explorer or go to File, New, Java Project. And I'm just going to call this project Fizzbuzz Example. And these other settings look okay, so I'm going to hit next. This is fine. And we have to choose at least one user library. Choose this one. Disable the library configuration. And we're going to hit finish. Won't change perspective. So we've created our Java project. Now let's first, in the spirit of test-driven development, you always want to start with the test class. So I'm going to start by just naming this class Fizzbuzz test case. And the other things are fine. We can let it extend from object. Okay, so we have a basic, pretty empty class here. Now, in order to make a test method, you're going to decorate the function with this @test. Then we're going to make a public method that doesn't return anything. And so our first test, the point of test-driven development and unit testing really is to test each function through all possible scenarios. So with our Fizzbuzz example, I guess I didn't really introduce what Fizzbuzz means. Here I have a little some information on it. Basically, you can see you pass a number into the Fizzbuzz function and it's going to return something. If the number is divisible by 3, it will return fizz. If it's divisible by 5, it will return buzz. And if it's divisible by 15, it will return fizzbuzz. So, going back to here, we're going to want to have a function called Fizzbuzz in the main application. And here, we're going to be testing it. So we're going to test through each possible situation. Let's just start with an easy one and say the situation when you pass 1 into the function. So I like to begin all my test methods with just the word test. And then the method that we're testing, Fizzbuzz. And then something about what you're passing in and what you should expect. So I'm just going to say test Fizzbuzz that 1 returns 1. Since when we pass 1 into the Fizzbuzz example, we just want the number 1 back. We don't want fizz or buzz or Fizzbuzz. And okay, so that is the test method. Now, notice that we don't have any other classes here, But now I need to call the function Fizzbuzz. So because this is just going to be a pretty simple project, I'm just going to have one main application class. And I'm just going to call that class main. So main, and let's just give it a public static method of the class that's called Fizzbuzz. So we're going to call Fizzbuzz from this main class, and we're going to pass in 1, since that's what we decided when we created the method name up here. So, and let's set this equal to a string. We'll just name that variable result. Now our assert methods. We're going to want to assert that this result is equal to 1, because that's what we're expecting. Assert is basically saying, what are you expecting it to be? So we're expecting it to be 1, and we want to pass in result. Okay, now we have some red squiggles here. So this assert, we never added the JUnit library. So let's do that real quick. Let's actually right click on the project, and we're going to go to properties. Then here in the Java build path, we can go to libraries, and you could add the jar for this JUnit library, but actually because it's such a popular library, we can just click add library, and we can see that it's right here, JUnit. So we're going to add that. JUnit 4 is fine, and finish, and now OK. Alright, so now we've added that JUnit library to our project. Now if we Control-Shift-O, should add the necessary imports, and we're doing that, and we see that it did import JUnit.test. If we hover over this though, there's still problems here, and it's telling us that actually we need to add the static import JUnit.assert. So we're going to do that, since we're actually using this static method assert equals. So now we're fine here, and we still have a little red squiggle under this main, and that's of course because we don't have a class yet named main. So let's create that class. We can just do Control-1, and we have the option to create the class main. So let's do that. Already filled out the name for us. These things are fine. Let's add actually this public static void main, just in case we want to run this class. Now we have main, just an empty class here. Let's go back though, because we have a new swivel here. It now recognizes the class named main, but it's confused about this Fizzbuzz. We haven't defined a function yet called Fizzbuzz. So now we can Control-1 again, and we have the choice to create a method Fizzbuzz. So let's do that. And it's just returning null right now. So that's fine. Just do the most basic thing to get it compiling first. Now it's compiling, and we can run these tests. So it's running this Fizzbuzz test case, recognizes that it's a test case because of the test decorator here. So let's see, the assertion error is that it expected 1 but was null, and this happened at the test that 1 returns 1, of course, because that's the only test function that we have right now. So we're asserting it that it should be equal to 1, and we're getting null. So now we have a failing test. Let's go back here, and instead of returning null, let's just return the simplest thing to get the test passing. So let's just do 1. Kind of cheating, but it's fine for now. In fact, it's what you should be doing if you're doing test-driven development. So now the test passes. Any refactoring, duplication? Not really. We could make this a little simpler by taking out this variable and just putting main.fizzbuzz right in there, assert equals, but I think it's a little clearer to just leave it like this. So let's go on to our next function. Maybe we can try one now that returns fizz. So let's create another test, and I'm just going to say maybe we can create a test Fizzbuzz that 3 returns fizz. And so now I am going to pass in to have this same line result, and we're going to pass in 3 to the Fizzbuzz function, and now we're going to assert equals again, but now instead of 1, we're going to expect that it's going to return fizz. So now we can run this, and of course it expected fizz, but it's returning 1 always, so this test fails. Now let's go back to main.java and see how we might be able to change this function so that it will not fail on either test. So 3 seems to be a special case here. So maybe we can just say if the int that's passed in is equal to 3, then we'll just return fizz. Okay, that seems fine. If it's not equal to 3, we're just going to keep returning 1. Let's test this. And the test passed. So that's great. Now let's create another test. I'm not really liking this return 1. We can kind of see that we're going to need to return I. But let's first just create another test. Let's just say 2. Because we know that 2 is going to return 2. So let's create the test method for this. And we can see that it should fail. I was expecting 2, but it was 1. So we're going to go back to main, and we're going to say, okay, when we pass in 1, we need to return 1. When we pass in 2, we need to return 2. And more generally, when we pass in x, we're just going to want to return x. So we're passing in I here, and we're just going to return I. And actually, though, it's expecting a string. And in order to make this nicely return a string, we're going to use the static method toString from the integer class. That's just built in with Java. And we're going to return that integer as a string. Now we can go back here and run the tests again, and they should pass. Let me see, 3 out of 3 are passing. We get the green bar. So it's all honky-dory. Now let's make a new test, and we're going to want to test now that's going to return buzz, since we want to test all possible scenarios of the things we can pass in and things that we're expecting. So let's just copy this function, and now we're going to test that 5. It doesn't have to be 5, we could say 10. Test that 10 returns. Actually, let's use 6. Let's just test fizz again, because actually we need to change some things about our main for here. So we're going to test that 6 also returns fizz. And let's see what happens when we do this. We already coded the fizz scenario. Oh, no, this is going to return fizz. But we see, here, we're getting a failure. So, fizz, we have it only if I is equal to 3. What we really want is if I is divisible by 3. And we can use the nice modulo operator here. This is kind of saying the remainder after I is divided by 3. So if this remainder is 0, then we know that I was divisible by 3, and we should return fizz. Now we can run this again. Green bar. Okay, so now we're on a roll. Now we can do the buzz case, and let's just do 10. Just for the fun of it. We're going to pass in 10 when we are expecting buzz. Run that. We should get a failure. And we do expect a buzz, but it just returned 10. So now we need to code for if it is divisible by 5. And we're going to do that pretty much the same way. If I mod 5 is equal to 0, then we're going to return the string buzz. Yep. That looks good, and now we are going to run it. And test pass. Alright, let's go on to our final expected case. Well, maybe not the final one. We might have some edge cases, but we need to code for 15. So, testing at 15 returns Fizzbuzz. Oh yeah. So we're sending in 15, and we should expect Fizzbuzz. Now, let's see. It's going to fail. Yes, it does. Okay. So, let's see. We're going to want this 15 check to happen before the 3 and the 5 check, since 15 numbers that are divisible by 15 will also be divisible by 3 and 5. So if we put the check down here, then it will just return fizz. So we want these to happen up here. So I'm going to just say if I mod 3 times 5 equals 0, Then we're going to return Fizzbuzz, and I actually stepped into a little trap here on purpose. Let's see what happens when we run this. Okay, we get a failure, and we were sort of expecting this Fizzbuzz to work now. Let's see what the failure was. It was expecting Fizz, but was Fizzbuzz. And let's see what's happening now. Expected Fizz, but was Fizzbuzz. So, where are we expecting Fizz? And we can actually see which test case this was. Test Fizzbuzz that 3 returns Fizz. Okay, here we are. So, for some reason, when we're passing in 3, it's returning Fizzbuzz. So we're going to go back to main and see why this could be. And let's take a look at this. Fizzbuzz is what it's returning. So let's see, we pass in 3. Why would it be returning Fizzbuzz? So we pass in 3, and we have 3 mod 3. So it's doing this, order of operations. 3 mod 3 is 0. Multiplied by 5 is still 0. And that is equal to 0. So we'll return Fizzbuzz. So we see our mistake here. Instead of I mod 3 times 5, we wanted to do 3 times 5 first. Then see if that is divisible by I. So you can see how the unit tests really helped us in debugging and figuring out the problem here. So let's go back and make sure this works. And indeed we do get a green bar here, meaning that all the tests pass. So you might just want to try some other things. Maybe try 0, try -15, try passing in something that's not even an integer, coding for error handling, things like that. But that's really the basics of test-driven development. Hope you like this example. I'm going to sign off here. Thanks for watching.